green smoke. Oh boy, who could it be? Maybe U22 or a new DP. The fans await, the excitement grows. Can't wait to see who Roto shows. Green smoke. Oh boy, who could it be? Maybe U22 or a new DP. The fans await, the excitement grows. Can't wait to see who Roto shows. Green smoke. Oh boy, who could it be? Maybe a U22 or a new DP. The fans await, the excitement grows. Can't wait to see who Roto chose.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome into another Green Smoke emergency live stream here in the North End. My name is Zach Graham, your host here in the North End, joined, as always, by my good buddy. He's on record as my best friend. His name is Ian Michaud, and we call him He's sitting here on a snowy Tuesday afternoon in Austin, Texas. Most of that snow looking like it's melting right about now, but it's a winter wonderland, and we are in an Austin FC wonderland right now. The signings keep coming. How you feeling, my friend?
Feeling fantastic, man. Nothing has really changed. The wagon continues to be built here. I got an excited pup, excited Moochie. He's got a little bit of cabin fever because he absolutely hates the cold, hates the snow. So we haven't been able to get him out for a walk. Shout out to everyone who wants me to quit my job. Appreciate that. If you guys want to pay my salary or something, we can figure something out here. But until then, I'm going to have to hit these meetings. Sorry for being a little late, but excited to get into it. This is a guy we've been excited about for a hot minute here. And one of the more interesting sagas we've had in this offseason in regard to, oh, he's on the radar. Okay, we're definitely not going to get him. Whoa, we really might get him. Okay, we got him.
Yeah. And so, of course, we'll talk through the press release. We've got some highlights to watch. The first team is playing right now out there in Florida. So down 1-0. Hopefully we get a little live stream luck and get that equalizer here. 2 35-minute halves against the New England Revolution here today. And all of our friends in the chat. You see Brock in here, Sarah in here, Jean's in here, Trevor, Jesse, Dave, Brian. Look, Moon Tower. Maybe the most timely Moon Tower news last night for this smoke to drop, I believe, while they were recording. So you got a Sabovic breakdown on Moon Tower if you already listened this morning, as I, of course, have. P. Mike, Rocky, George, 512, the Trefoil in here, Silverblade saying this 3-month-old rocking out to the Green Smoke song, and Alex in here as well, excited about Sabo, not excited about being down 1-0 to Maxi Urruti and the Revs. So let's go ahead and just jump right into this here because we're in the middle of our workday. Appreciate everybody stopping by, whether you're, at work or maybe you got a snow day here today. No snow days for those remote workers, I guess, you and I, E. But you see the club posting the press release. Besard Sabovic signs with Austin FC on a free transfer. And we talked about this on Sunday's episode, where the fact that Sabovic is a free agent here, and we don't have to pay a transfer fee for a player who was in high demand. And I want to discuss that as well. 3+1 here, so guaranteed through 2027, option for 2028. What's your first reaction to seeing the length of this deal and, of course, the mechanisms by which we acquired him? Because I want to skip right to the bottom. $50K in GAM to NYCFC for his discovery rights. So this may be really the only drawback of any of these moves we've made so far, is that we've had to hop through these MLS hoops to get there with trading GAM to San Jose, right? And now to NYCFC to bring our guys in here. But how you feeling here off the top?
The length of it, the duration really doesn't surprise me after what we've seen come in thus far from Roto and his staff. Like you said, not having to pay the transfer fee because he's a free agent is absolutely huge. And we're not the only team that knows about that. You know what I mean? So it's like
Right.
this guy was even more coveted because of that mechanism you had built in there. And we were looking for some midfielder help after we watched the open practice, looking at this roster construction. And we were all wondering, okay, well, where's our kind of distributor, our kind of captain in the middle here who's going to be able to dictate our offense and push us out wide and everything like that. And this appears to be the profile of a player who's going to be able to do that for us. So again, incredibly excited. This fantastic offseason continues strong here with bringing Besard in.
Yeah, so let's go through a little bit of his background as we see Jackson in here saying RIP to the day jobs during the offseason. Eric Moon Tower saying shout out Uncle Tony. Absolutely. Phoenix in here. Scott Profe, snow day, baby. Vanilla Mexican in here. And let's move into this because a little bit of the background here on and another guy who we got to figure out the nickname. Is it Sabo? You know, like Alex posted in the chat there. We'll see. It'll come with time. Right?
It'll come.
So born in Stockholm, Sweden, Sabovic is a citizen of Sweden and North Macedonia. He's played the majority of his professional career in for Djurgården. And I think I'm saying that, or Djurgårdens here, IF. They won the Swedish league title in 2019, but he's actually had 2 separate stints. As they note here in the release, he's got 10 total goals in 107 appearances for Djurgårdens, including 21 appearances in the UEFA Conference League. And they are, Djurgårdens is in the Conference League right now, I believe Chelsea. So shout out to the VP boys and any other fans of Chelsea out there who are undefeated at the top of the Conference League. But with the 4-1-1 record that Sabovic helped them to before departing for Austin, or I guess just departing that team because he was a free agent. Started all 6 of those 4-1-1. I believe they are, near the top, not at the top, but near the top in those Conference League standings. Sabovic said, after my playing my entire career in Europe thus far, moving to the United States and joining Austin FC is the exact challenge I am looking for. I'm grateful to Rodolfo Borrell and the club's ownership for their belief in me, and I can't wait to meet my teammates and the supporters. So pretty standard boilerplate welcome quote there. And Rodo, same thing. He said Besard is a player with a strong physical profile, quality, and experience playing in top divisions across Europe. He will be a solid addition to our squad in the coming seasons. And we did have, where is this comment? Somebody made a comment about sorry, I can't find it right now, but the contract length, right? Through 2027 with the option for 28 lines up with Svatak, Bukhari, and Dessler there. So kind of fitting into that first core window where we think we see, or we don't think, we know we see Brandon Vasquez extending beyond that, Djurgården extending beyond that. But at least 3 years of Sabovic here, and it certainly seems to be kind of in his prime right now.
Yeah, again, I wasn't too shocked with the duration of this contract. Obviously, Djurgården going to get a bit longer just given the age and everything like that. But man, this is just another like exciting signing for this team to be built out. I'm excited to see where we're going to put him, how that's going to look. You know, the big question for me this offseason has been how much are we going to change tactically? What's it going to look like? Because I really just don't have a great answer for that. And I know that when we were doing our last live stream, I mentioned that we're going to have to see who else comes in here. And I hope that would be a bit more of a puzzle piece that we could put into place to understand how this team is going to play and what Nico really wants to happen. So I know that you have some information on that stuff from Nico's past and everything, which I am excited to get into because I haven't seen too much of this guy. You know, like I have not seen his highlight tape up until this point. So I'm going to be watching that for the first time with everyone in here. But from what I've been told and what I've heard from other people about his style of play, particularly you breaking it down for me, I like the profile. You know, we need a guy who's going to be able to get the ball to these goal scoring guys. The Azuni, who, you know, we've only classified him as goals. Vasquez saying that his, top ability or one of his best abilities is to be in the right place at the right time and find the back of the net. We understand Buka's a goal scoring threat as well. So like we do need someone to get these guys the ball. And it looks like this is going to be our player here for that.
Yeah, so a little bit more on his background as a youth. Sabovic represented both Sweden and North Macedonia at various youth international age levels. And this is putting me through the fucking ringer here, bro. Spent time on loan with Brahma Podgorna in 2017 and Dalkurd in 2019, both in Sweden before joining Malby IAF for the 2020 season. Left Sweden in February 2021. Competed in the Turkish First Division for Karius. Oh boy, that's I'm not going back to that one because look. If you make the EuroLeague on the basketball side of things, I got it down. He was with Himki in Russia, and I know that one, E. So he has been kind of all over there in Europe. And like he mentioned, kind of ending the European part of his career, coming to the States for the foreseeable future here, occupying senior and international designations on the Austin FC roster. So we will check out the roster sheets. But as we continue to talk here about our newest signing and check back in on the chat, let's watch some of those highlights. I mentioned on Sunday's regularly scheduled episode 196, that the thing that stuck out to me most was his passing. So as we watch this, I think this is just about a 5-minute highlight video, but Sabovic is you see this first long ball here. As we watch this, what I think about is him lobbing these balls, these changing balls, these through balls over the top to Bukhari running down the right, Azuni running down the left or up the middle, BV up there as a big target, and maybe CJ Fadre centrally after what we heard Coach Nico say and where we saw CJ playing more centrally at the open training. So you can see, from the stats we read off, right, 10 goals and about a little over 100 appearances for Djurgårdens. These get me excited, and this is one of the first times that I think I've watched a highlight tape like this where there's not a ton of banger goals. Yeah. And I think there's one pass, I don't think we've seen it yet, but it's just changing from left to right and hits this guy in stride. And when it comes up, I might let out a little bit of an excited noise. I don't know, man, but I think this guy this might be it right here. I think this guy profiles as a day one starter. And I did see a question here from Dave right there. Look at that. I mean,
yeah.
We don't have anybody that can hit that pass.
No, they used to.
No disrespect intended, but how many times were we just head in hands in the North End last year because we watched Alex or Julio or whomever just sail that pass right out of bounds into the west side?
Yes, absolutely. Again, and another thing I'm excited about, 6'1". I was so tired of us looking like a JV team every time we played someone with some even just kind of substantial size. So you add that in there too. It's I know that's not a huge factor, but especially in the middle, you're probably not going to get into too many aerial duels. He's not making box runs to try to go get goal scoring heads and everything like that. But it definitely does not hurt. And it also just makes me feel a little better that we just don't look like this really puny, tiny team out there.
Yeah. And you saw him with that free kick goal. I was talking to our buddy Logan Okwa, who, I trust on almost everything soccer, with his knowledge of the game from a global sense. And first of all, he pointed out Sabovic takes all of the free kicks, or took all of the free kicks for Djurgården. So we may have our new set piece guy here as well. And his description of him to me was I believe he said 2020 Alex Ring with more technical ability. And if you're telling me we get prime Alex Ring, who's maybe a little bit more talented, it's perfect. We weren't running Ring out of here because we didn't think he was good. It was more of the contract and age thing. And it seems like we're getting Sabovic he's not a TAM player, right? No. We got him on a free, and they have designated the TAM players on the roster sheet on the club site. So I don't know, man. This seems like another good one for Rodo. And also, like I said on Sunday, he just seems to be selling the vision for the future of this club. And all these guys are buying in. The only one we know of, I'm not saying that nobody else has turned their nose up at or spurned a Rodo offer, but Fafa Pico, okay, again, we said it at the time. I get it if you're I want to go play with Messi, in a place where I spent a lot of my childhood down there in Miami. But okay, if we're getting beat out by the lure of Messi, okay, that's fair.
Yeah, you're in the conversation. Absolutely. And that's something I've been preaching as well. And usually you can see, because every time you get some sort of signing and everything, most of the players, no matter the sport, are oh, I'm excited about the future here. I'm ready to grow here and stuff like that. But I just think it has been a little bit different the way that we've seen the initial connection between players like BV and Roto, and the way that a lot of these European guys who have come over here now are speaking about this, because obviously they have a lot more avenues open than your typical just MLS veteran. If you're looking for clubs over there. So like, you want to be part of a winning organization. We have not been that up until this point, but again, the name Rodolfo Borrell, what that comes with, the precedent that it has already been established when you bring him up, is just, it's paying dividends for us right now. And I like what the Moon Tower boys said just about a shout out to Tony and the ownership. I'm going to absolutely echo that sentiment, because this has been a very, very expensive offseason for this team. And we've gone out and we found players that we have identified as people that we want in this organization, who we think are going to make us successful. And we are going out there and we are getting them and we are paying for them. And then on the opposite side of things, you see the Seba deal that move like that. We got our price for him. So like, things are just moving around really swimmingly. I know I speak so highly of Rodolfo almost every time I'm on here. But like, I don't know what else to go off of. Like, everything else, it's all been fantastic. And I was also really excited that we didn't push too early in this rebuild to like get some stopgap fillers. Like, the season was difficult, but now we're here, we're on the other side of things, and these players are now flowing in, and like, that's what I want to see.
Jesse in here saying Seba out, Sabo in.
There you go.
Might be. Yeah, and good to see Harry in here down there in San Antonio. Brian in here saying Owen likely becomes a super sub alongside Hot Air Obrian. And I think you include John Gallagher in that list too. And awesome.
That's great. Yes.
Yeah,
that's another thing that's gone missing with like the impact that we know that a lot of these stud players that we have coming in here. It is just pushing our depth chart further and further to points where we're actually going to be in advantageous situations where you're bringing on an Owen Wolf, you're bringing on a Hot Air versus Tired Legs, you're bringing on a Johnny G versus Tired Legs. Like, that is fantastic in and of itself. And then you pair it with just the buoying of the talent level going up because of these guys. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, I think
they're still going to get plenty of time. Yeah, and we need those guys. You need a whole roster. Facts.
Yeah, I think it's a great point there by Jin Baku. And like, that's where we face some of those teams that are perennially at the top of the table, whether it's in the Western Conference or when we cross over and play some of those Eastern Conference teams. Is like, yeah, of course LAFC comes to mind first, where like you can sub in Carlos Vela and Ilie Sanchez and Tim Tillman off the bench, right? Yeah. Like, and I'm not necessarily saying that our bench is quite to that level of the top teams in the league yet, but like, now we have an actual bench where you're bringing starting caliber MLS players off of your bench with fresh legs running at a tired back line. So, and this is exactly what Alex says right here. Imagine these super subs in Obrian and Gallagher running wild against tired legs with Sabovic serving long balls to them after you get 60-65 minutes of the DP front three, right? And of course, John's flexibility to play on the back line as well.
Yes, absolutely. And like, these are more of the roles that these players are well suited for, right? Like, at Owen's stage of his career right now, he could be a starter. Like, I think he could be a starter on a solid team. Is he a night in, night out starter on a championship winning team? I don't know. You know, is Johnny G a night in, night out starter on a championship winning team? I don't know. But when they're in that, 14 to 15 slot, or what have you, 12 to 15, however you want to organize these guys who are coming off the bench, that is really some quality depth in this league. And it's so important because we know the gruel of all the grueling nature of this schedule. We know the grind. We know you're losing guys to international duty. There's a lot that goes into it. And like, when we had been a team on the fringe consistently trying to make a push into the playoffs, those stretches killed us because we just could not make up the difference, the talent gap that existed between a lot of these teams, not even the top tier teams with your LAFCs, all of those guys, your Miamis and everything. Like, when we were playing middle of the table teams,
Houston
who were kind of
covered at the end of last year, man.
Yes, who were built similarly to us. When we didn't have our guys, we got our ass beat. So like, this is just really, really big for the entire course of this season. I know that winning a supporter shield is not as important in America as it is winning the cup. But like to be able to set yourself up for the playoffs and avoid some of these teams in the Western Conference that are, more tenured, more perennial than we have been, I think is just setting yourself up for potential success to go ahead and make a run for this thing. And like, this has been a win now push. This is a win now push again. Like, you still see the duration of these guys. We're going to have this nice little core that we're going to be able to build off of going to the future. But like, this is a win now push.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jim Baku saying, trust in Roto. He was the jackpot hire in Austin FC history, in my opinion. We've said similar things where like it is the best money that Anthony Precourt has ever spent. And Sarah saying she agrees. All she knows is she's drinking the Roto Kool-Aid. And Trevor said Profe is going to explode with all this hype talk. Profe saying he's all right, thanks.
I was going to say shout out my short kings, but like we're talking professional sports here, all right? Like shout out my short kings, but yeah.
Good to see the acid bath in here, saying it feels like Roto has figured out the Moneyball equivalent for football. Just keeps finding the diamonds in the roughs. Give the head of player scouting a massive raise too. Now, all of these guys have to come in here and perform, and the coaches have to figure out how to fit the pieces together. But again, on paper, the rebuild process, like again, I think, is it fair to declare the rebuild over and like we're just adding weapons now? Like,
yes,
because we got 3 DPs, we got a U22. We're adding these senior guys that are non-TAM but internationals, like for multiple years going forward. Like Sabovic is a very different profile from Ilie, not just the player profiles, but like how he profiles going down the road with this team.
Yes.
Of course, you see that in just the contract lengths and the ages. But and yeah, Eric. Sorry, I was saying Eric saying we should have a third DB coming, right? Yeah, we expect the Mirtu Azuni smoke late this week now, because apparently that medical is multi-day, is what I saw yesterday. So we were maybe expecting that today. Anytime between literally right now, and I think I'd be surprised if we got to this point next week and we didn't have a Zuni smoke, just given the reporting around that. But yeah, we have 3 DPs, the U22, and we could, like, we're full up right now. I guess let's take a look at the roster sheets here at the northendpodcast.com. Assuming the Azuni deal happens. Again, we don't update these sheets until they're club official, but he would take that third DP slot and the 9th international slot that we have. Of course, that came over in the trade on draft day. So we have that extra 9th international slot. I do think, I haven't gone back and gone through all the press releases on the green cards that we have gotten for our players in the past, but it feels like we have at least one, like every offseason. Like we got one for Driussi. Danny, of course, had a bit of a longer road, I think, with his asylum situation and everything coming from Venezuela, to the States many years ago. But Johan Valencia got one last year, right? Now, Leo Väisänen has been here now for 2 years. And Hadar Obrian, I think, for a little bit longer. I think he was 2 years with Dallas, and then he's been 1 year with us. So I'm not sure. I'm like almost expecting one of those guys to end up with a green card before the season starts, or at least by that summer window. So we have that flexibility then as well. But we also talked about on Sunday's episode our theory that you could potentially buy one of these senior guys down, Heinzike or Biru, or Rubio if he signed on a lower number with his new contract extension, that we could open up a senior slot like that as well. But assuming it's just a Zuni coming in the next week, we will have no more international slots, 2 more U22 slots, and 1 senior slot. And a reminder about the U22s, those have to be senior slots. So as long as we only have that 1 senior slot, we can only add 1 more U22 if that's the way that Roto chooses to go. And then we have those supplemental slots, which like kind of got me excited this morning. I will say, like, shout out to Michelle, who told us or gave us this little screen grab of somebody who looks exactly like Matt Hedges in the huddle this morning. It is not. We can just pull this up right now. It looks a little bit like Matt Hedges, right?
That's an angry Matt Hedges.
Yeah, you see him in the rain here. Looked a lot like Matt Hedges. So it is not. That is our assistant, one of our new assistant athletic trainers, I believe, Joe Rosauer. So welcome, Rosauer. And, you look a lot like Matt Hedges. So,
Crumb season lives on. Yeah,
and that made me start thinking, like, what, could Matt Hedges be coming back on a supplemental where, like, he's totally in the Hector role at that point where he's 5th center back. You're probably not going to have to play a ton. You collect the nice little paycheck on the senior reserve minimum. But but not to be, at least with Matt Hedges. But we should add one or two players there, whether it's on the younger end with an Irvin Torres or somebody like that getting a homegrown deal, or one of these MLS veterans. And look, man, like we're at a point now. I think I said I didn't really care to add him, but like 34-year-old Felipe is still out there. And like, I don't think it hurts you to bring him into this locker room. I don't know. But like guys like that, right? I would expect at least one MLS veteran to be coming in on a supplemental deal before the season starts. And maybe in a vein of like Will Bruin, right? Where we got Will Bruin crumbs in 2023 in the preseason. We actually saw him in one of the training videos they put out and didn't recognize him until we saw him like the next week, I think, in person. So just, it's still crumb season. So if you see something, say something, and you tag the North End podcast. So
this is also, I mean, to that point, this is a much more attractive situation to come to now if you're an MLS vet, you know, who's looking to have a good season and not be wallowing, you know, like if they ended up in Houston or something.
Right. Well, this is a good question here from Alex. Says, who do y'all think which position fills the final senior roster slot? Has to have a green card, or do we trade for another international slot? That is, of course, you could acquire another international slot. I personally hope we are getting a green card, because we would have to then trade, you know, unless we figure out how to get green cards between now and next season, right? Those are usually only traded in single season increments. So we would have to go find more international slots next season if we didn't get green cards for anybody that are already filling those slots. But I guess we could also look at the year-by-year depth chart. Yeah, see Leo locked in next year. Hodder locked in next year. So we're going to need a green card for somebody if we're going to get more internationals. Or, you know, there's transfers. There's trades now in the league. Second buyout also in the back pocket.
A lot of tools now. Yeah.
So back to Alex's question. What position do we think would fill that last senior slot, assuming we only get that one senior slot to use and we don't free up anything else? For me, I think it's still a forward or a winger, right? Because if we're going to use CJ more centrally, then maybe we are in the market for another winger, even bringing in Azuni. And it's also tough. It's tougher this week than last week, I think, to confidently give an answer to that because of what we saw in terms of the flexibility and training this week. And again, like they're not showing us all the cards at open training, but Coach Estevez also talking about his formational flexibility based on who he's got in form and based on the opponent. So it's a little bit more guesswork, I think, than I felt like it was a week or two ago. But I would still say somebody on the wing or up top.
That's a good question. You know, I'm thinking about it here. Got the wheels turning a little bit, but like, you know, when we talked about with some of these super sub guys, right? Like we can move them around a lot of different places if we have needs that, you know, depending on injuries, what have you, game script, what have you. Like you can move Johnny plenty of different places. You can move Owen plenty of different places. So like you have some more versatile depth there. It would be more difficult to have a solid backup nine, like pushing one of those guys up forward is obviously not in the cards like that. You mentioned CJ being able to play a bit more centrally. I'm interested to see how that plays out. And another piece that is just fantastic for the depth here, him maturing, looking more physically built when we saw him at open training and everything, with the potential to find minutes as a backup nine or a third string nine in this roster. So you know, we've floated fullback a little bit here as one of those positions, like an emergency style fullback. I don't know if I want to put too many chips into the Riley Thomas cart, if that, you know, is something that was on the mind there of the team. But I'm going to say another midfielder personally. Okay. I think you have obviously you see for
the senior slot.
Yes. I think you see the obvious transition from Ilya to Djurgården, right? Like you have that built in where it's like he's going to be the guy going forward, Nico, that is, and everything. But I still think you're going to need some more depth pieces there. And like to your point, you know, finding someone like a Felipe Martins, like something in that type of situation where it's like a older MLS veteran that you can bring in here, build a bit more continuity with the team. I think that wouldn't be a bad sign. So for me, it's either midfield or a backup nine, another backup nine.
Okay.
especially if Diego's going to be moving around. You know what I mean? Like if we see him more in a bit of a 9-10, pulling him back, then I definitely think you should go after a forward again.
Yeah. And man, like it just makes for so much more speculation, I feel like, than we've had in past years with potential formational changes and players that as try as we might, we are not going to be near as familiar with these guys coming in as we will, by mid-March, right? Actually seeing them in action, whether it's preseason or the first couple weeks of the regular season. I do see our buddy Scott Wade in here saying huge thanks to the North End boys and Drewski in here as well. Let's see. So Gene saying way ahead of our roster personnel from this time any year prior. So a little shrug there.
That's another thing that I really liked right now is like, we have a new coaching staff in here. We're clearly going to be implementing new playing tactics, new playing styles. We're going to be learning new formations, different things of that nature. So like, I like that this roster is really set. You're going to get Besard coming over here. We're going to get that Azuni smoke. He's going to be coming over here. And like, this is going to be a very important offseason to try to get these guys to gel as quickly as possible. Because again, our expectation is top 4 seed in the West, a potential cup winning team here. And like, I understand the talent and like everyone's excited. I'm incredibly excited. I'm one of the most excited people that, has been jumping around all over, podcasts all the time. It's just like, this has been fantastic, but like, still you got to go out there, you got to do it on the field. So like this offseason is going to be really important for Nico and his staff to get these guys in here. And the more time you have with all of these dudes, and you're seeing this now, we're like, with the Azuni news coming through, we're going to have that one senior spot left. You're going to be able to get these guys in here and start building that chemistry that is required to be able to go ahead and win a cup. And like, that's the expectation now for this team. Maybe not the expectation is winning a cup, but like, I'm expecting a deep playoff run. Like this is a top 4 team, deep playoff run. So I do enjoy how fast this has come in. It's rolling.
Absolutely. And look, man, you're not spending all this money this window and going back over the last 2 windows and setting up this roster as it stands today and as it is, continuing to be fleshed out as we work our way just over a month from opening day. Like, it's not, I don't think it's crazy. And by the way, 400-1, I think I saw Austin FC to win the MLS Cup. Yeah, so there will be jelly beans on that from us at some point in the near future. And yeah, when we say MLS Cup, it's contender, right? It's you're in the top 4. We especially like if Atlanta United as a 9 seed can come in and beat Inter Miami, not just in a playoff knockout game, but in a 3-game series. If you get into the dance, as long as you have the bodies, you have a shot. And I think we will have better than just a shot, but you got to get there first, right? Like you got to get into the dance. So also seeing here, Trevor saying, how much do we care about the open supplemental slots? Trevor says he thinks with the more flexible up and down options with Austin FC 2, it's not as big of a deal to have them empty as it kind of was last year. And I think for me, Trevor, like I agree, but not necessarily because of the flexibility with the second team, but it's because I feel much more confident in the guys occupying the senior roster. Like, now we have my only issue, I think, with the senior roster right now. Like we could talk about Jean Kolmanich and how I don't necessarily get why he got that contract extension. But again, I'm trusting in Roto. And I also understand the value of having somebody like Jean. He brings a left foot. He brings a weapon from that side of the field that I don't think we really have with anybody else. Or if we do, he is the best at service from that side of the pitch. Like, and then I still maintain I don't think having your backup keeper on the senior roster is great roster building. But again, I trust in Roto. And then Jesse saying, stop with Felipe. And Alex says, I love Felipe on this team, even if he never played more than garbage time. And Moontower in here saying, with all the mids we have now, Felipe would never even make a match day roster. But that's a good thing. And that's why you sign a guy like Felipe. Right? Like he doesn't have to play. He didn't play hardly at all for Orlando last year. But we're focusing on him because we love him and he's a known quantity in that role, right? Yeah, so we would want him to play less than he did in 2022. But like those are the types of guys that I want to see 1 or 2 being added to the supplemental roster because I would take an MLS veteran who's not going to make match day rosters over an FCTO player who's not going to make match day rosters and be mostly with the second team. Like, bring me one of the, like you said, bring us a locker room guy at minimum for one of those spots. And I think like we'll get it.
Yeah. And like we're talking about with building continuity and stuff like that, guys that profile like that, locker room dudes, help that process along as you're trying to build that team out.
Yeah. And Profe saying leave the senior spot open for whatever happens during the season. See, I disagree. As long as we have that second buyout, I want to see 20 guys on the senior roster headed into the season. Again, it can get complicated with like injuries during the season, and like maybe there's guys who we would be fine to buy out at this point, but if we take on some injuries or some other things happen where those guys are no longer as, like, for lack of a better term, attractive buyout options. But I want to say to me, it's go time, man. And you told me to be more confident in standing on what I've been saying on Sunday's episode. Like, this is the time. This team is ready to compete, to be back at or near the top of the Western Conference table. And like Profe, coming from anybody, the captain of the skimp over here, like, for you to say leave a spot open, it's very unprof.
You're being very unprof.
Yeah. Gene says send Felipe down in next pro for playing time and allow him to shithouse kids.
That league would fold.
That would be fun. That would be fun. Oh, and this is one that we brought up on a previous episode, and we see the Verde Pendant jumping in here. So shout out to the VP boy saying bring back Mackenzie Gaines. I would love to have Mackenzie Gaines on a supplemental deal. And I think it was 3 episodes ago that we were looking through the guys who were in the re-entry process and the waiver draft and all that stuff. And Gaines was the name that stuck out, of course, first because he's recognizable. And we've got those hometown vibes, but also like he's a speedy winger. Like you put him opposite, right, like third string winger on either side. I love that for a guy that wouldn't count against the cap and you could get maybe on a senior minimum salary. So again, that's the type of guy, those are the type of players that we should be using on these supplemental slots if they're not homegrowns. Like, again, I don't really see anybody on FC2 last year that I'm like, well, that guy's definitely going to get, like, outside of our academy guys that can be homegrowns. You know, like, I don't, Bonachera, Van Ryn, Grogan, maybe down the road. I don't think right now, like, Riley Thomas, I said, you know, I think has a chance to maybe grab one of those supplemental slots, but I still don't think that's super likely.
Yeah. And probably not that advantageous, honestly. Especially with the departure of Alonso. You know, that was like the one guy where like, okay, we wouldn't feel terrible if we had to pull him up in a situation and stuff like that. But again, that FCTO roster has changed so much as well. Like you're looking at that roster now too. And it's just like, oh shit, we got guys, you know, from all over at this point. So like, have to see that build out as well. And, you know, it's hard to identify specifically a target. I like the Mackenzie Gaines idea. I'm not completely sold on the Felipe thing, but like, again, I understand the profile. I understand what he brings to a team outside of any sort of counting stats or meaningful minutes into the game and everything like that. But like, there are plenty of, like, when we've been looking at these offseason free agents or the re-entry guys or whatever draft they find themselves in at some point in time, like, there's never a name you're like, oh, hell yeah. But there's names that are like, okay, that makes sense for a supplemental. Like that, you can find some stuff like that. So I do expect somebody else like that to come in here. I'm not sure of the position, like I said, but I did mention the 9 and potentially a midfield, but we'll see.
Yeah, and again, like these are guys that do not get emergency green smoke live streams as much as we will love them when they do get announced, you know.
We got jobs.
Right. Well, and like Roto's already done the work.
Yeah.
Right. Like we expect Azuni to show up and then another senior roster slot. But man, and like I forget who pointed it out in the chat, but like we're sitting here on January 21st with just one senior slot left. Again, we're assuming Azuni is here. And like, I don't know, man. I still want to try to temper my own expectations early in the season because of how good I think this team can be. I want to keep reminding myself that it's not going to look like the final product on February 22nd, or really anywhere, close to there. We got to give these guys time to gel. And so keep trying to keep my head on straight with all the excitement that I think we're rightfully feeling because of what we've been through with 3 years. You want to call 2022 luck, whatever you want to call it. Outside of that season, it has been more downs than ups. And the way things are trending, it feels like we're about to reverse course.
Yep. Good thing I talked you out of making that Austin FC championship banner.
Yeah, dude, it's an off season. Relax. If Mike Cragnola is listening, Ian doesn't like the banner.
We're not doing the banner.
Speaking of Mike Cragnola, he did take a screenshot from Valencia's website. And I wanted to talk about this as we close up the stream here today. This is a screenshot of their style of play, their code of conduct. And I think this can potentially give us some insight into how we're going to see Austin FC play here this season, right? Because Nico spent the majority of his coaching career with the Valencia Academy and coaching Valencia's B team. And so their style of play on their site says we are direct and deep. We create a lot of goal scoring chances. We create overloads by being daring, and we set an effective tempo. And direct and deep is the one that it's the first bullet point there. It's what comes to mind when we're watching the Sabovic highlights and dreaming about those balls ending up at the feet right in stride of the DP front three. And then defensively says we constantly put pressure on the player on the ball, and we are difficult to beat. And so again, that matches up with some of these more athletic, high energy guys like Brandon Vasquez. Like you look at some of those Cincinnati fans talking about him. He is able to have a high level of press on the defensive side of the ball. So I thought this was a pretty, I thought this was a good pull by Mike. It's a great pull. So credit to him on that. And then, right, like we knew about the interest from around the league, and not just around the league, man. This article about West Brom, who is in the championship right now, but I think in range of the playoff to potentially be promoted back into the Premier League. This was updated on Thursday the 16th. So last week, West Brom was still interested in Sabovic. So not only do we know about the Galaxy, the Timbers, Nashville, right? NYCFC, who had his discovery rights, they've been in on this guy. Mm-hmm. West Brom as well in the top end of the English Championship. So like this is a guy that was in high demand, and it brings me back to the statement that however Roto is selling this vision, from what we know, and again, there are plenty of discussions that go on behind the scenes that never see the light of day publicly, but from what we know, the only thing that has beat Roto to the punch is fucking the greatest player in the world down there in Miami. So this, again, it's super encouraging.
Yeah, I was just going to hammer home that point as well. He is saying something to these dudes that is instilling belief in them that makes them want to come here. Because if you list off all those names, right, West Brom, NYCFC, the Galaxy, and Austin FC, we are absolutely the least distinguished of all of those clubs. Probably don't have nearly the type of financial resources that all of those clubs have and everything. So like he is selling these people on there, and I forget who said it in the chat, but I also agree. The Roto signing was the key to all of this. Like he is the guy who is shaping this all and putting this all together. So that's fantastic. And again, I just want to salute ownership as well, because without, their willingness to open up the checkbooks, Roto is a bit, hamstrung. So that has not taken place. And it's going to be a fun season, man. We are in store for a blast. And, again, not counting my chickens before they hatch, but this team is going to score a lot of goals. We're going to be an exciting team to watch play. So it's going to be a fun year, and I can't wait for it to get here.
Yeah, I think that's the point you made the other day, right? Is like, even if it doesn't go quite as well as we expect it can here with this new look roster, that like the games will not, like the days of 0 shots on target feel like they're in the past. And I would much, if we're going to go down, I'd rather go down 5-4 than fucking 1-0 with no shots.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's just me. And Gene's in here saying, I think any second guessing of any kind stops when players experience our stadium atmosphere. And that's another thing I think that's coming back is like we've poked fun at the sellout streak, right? Where like technically it's alive, but there's empty seats pretty much every game after we get out of the first month, the last 2 seasons. Maybe if the 2022, the wins return, the true sellouts return. And there's nothing like a full Q2 stadium, man. Like there's nothing like it.
Absolutely. And we got some intel the other day at open practice about how they're even amplifying the experience there. So be ready for an even more juiced up time when we're at the Q Soccer Church.
Yep. I saw Alex mention in the chat. I don't remember if I pulled it up on screen, but Austin FC does go down 1-0 in their first preseason scrimmage here today. So look, season's over. Like we back it up, man. Yeah. I did want to close on this, E, and this is a scouting report from somebody who claims to be, right. I don't know why this person would post all of this stuff if they weren't actually a PFSA level 2 scout, and PFSA is endorsed by Y Scout, which is kind of the synergy of soccer for those basketball fans out there. And so, you have to pass a talent identification course to get this certification. This account posted on January 3rd, right after Sabovic became a free agent. Here's the words that he posted on Sabovic. Besard Sabovic has emerged as a well-rounded midfielder in recent seasons, capable of excelling in both defensive and advanced roles. He combines physical strength with a high work rate, making him a force on both ends of the pitch. In terms of his passing and progression, I'm reading this. I can just go ahead. We'll zoom in and look at it all together. If I can get a zoom, there's some. High passing volume, 56.5 passes per 90 with an average pass length of 18.6 meters. And top percentile for long passes per 90 was 7.3 in terms of his long passes per 90 and his success rate. His progressive passing above average was 6.5 progressive passes per 90 and strong forward intent. On the defensive side of the ball, dominant in duels, winning 79% of total duels and 68% of aerial duels, showcasing excellent physicality and timing. High volume of defensive actions, 14.3 per 90, highlighting his ability to break up opposition play. Sabovic, being a dual-winning, forward-playing midfielder, makes him an ideal fit for teams needing both defensive solidity and offensive progression. Sabovic would thrive in a physically demanding system with emphasis in transition and forward-thinking play. And look, man, I've seen a couple people saying, right, Austin, I forget what pundit said this, I think yesterday, that Austin getting a bunch of attacking talent and nobody can pass. Well, we just got a guy who can pass really fucking well. So I thought this was, shout out to the stat man, Tim Thompson, is who I pulled this link from. So again, the Austin FC community coming together here to give us as much information as possible on our new signing. And we love being able to, here in the off season, fire up the live stream and learn about this stuff along with everybody. So E, coming up on 50 minutes here on our Sabovic live stream. The emergency green smoke popped last night, press release this morning. Anything else for you before we shut it down?
No, sir.
All right, everybody. Yeah, stay warm. Still going to be cold, really, really cold here for the next couple of days, especially for my thin Texas blood. We may be back later this week if we get a Zuni green smoke. And if not, we will be back on Sunday for our regularly scheduled episode of the North End podcast. We appreciate everybody tuning in, sticking with us, whether you caught and joined us live or you are watching or listening on the replay. And just a reminder, the best way to support the show is by downloading the audio version of our episodes wherever you get your podcasts. You can toggle on auto downloads and support the show going forward without having to think about it further. And of course, while you're here on the YouTube, live or on the replay, subscribe to the channel. It helps us grow the show. You can hit the notification bell to know when a live stream like this pops up or a new episode goes live. And E, because I forgot this, we do have live advertising, so sign up for Underdog, promo code North End. We'll shut it down here in a second. The MLS season is almost here. If you want to make some picks on your favorite players in sports, check out Underdog Fantasy's Pick'em game. You choose higher or lower on between 2 to 8 players, and you can win up to 1,000 times your entry. Underdog is available in 33 states, including right here in Texas. To sign up, click the link in the description of this video and use promo code NORTHEND at sign up, and you'll get up to $1,000 in bonus cash and a free pick to get you started. So join the millions of fans who have won billions on Underdog. So excited about Sabovic that I forget to run the ad read earlier, E. So we appreciate everybody who stuck through that. Enjoy the rest of your week, everybody. We will do the same. We'll see you back here on Sunday for another episode of the North End Podcast. Until then, he is E, and I'm Zach. Vamos Austin FC, everybody. Green Smoke song.
Green smoke, green smoke. Oh boy, who could it be? Maybe a U22 or a new DP. The fans await, the excitement grows. Can't wait to see who photo shows. Green smoke. Oh boy, who could it be? Maybe a U22 or a new DP. The fans await, the excitement grows. Can't wait to see who photo shows. Green smoke. Oh boy, who could it be? Maybe a U22 or a new DP. The fans await, the excitement grows. Can't wait to see who photo shows.